What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Mike from NYC. And, yesterday I reacted to a video about, do all black people think the same about Jubilee? And, one of the questions was, is Kanye West invited to the cookout? From you having a cookout, chopping it up, is Kanye invited to the cookout? Now, me personally, I said some would agree because, you know what I mean? I feel like I know where Kanye's heart is. Even though I don't know him at all, I feel like based on the things he says, I feel like, I know where his heart is. I know his heart, it seems like it's in a good place. I feel like, though he may be doing things we don't understand, he hasn't really done anything, in my opinion, to make me say, like, nah, he's not really for our people. But I also said some would agree because, I may not necessarily be trying to be around that energy that he's talking about, with some of the polarizing things that he says. That being said, one of my friends sent me a link to a video where Kanye explains slavery was a choice. Now I just clicked on it. I ain't really watched none of it. You can see right there, it's only like a little red, but it's only a 2-minute 30-second video. So I'm gonna watch this, and give my thoughts on it, because I guess we'll see what I have to say on it, and let me know. You can comment on what you think about what I said or what you think about what he said, or anything like that. You know what I mean? So let's get right into it. Let's full screen this out, even though we on a short video.
Oh, she's already got it. Chicago. You know what? Kanye's here. He look really good.
Exposure. We partially had that conversation off air, so let's bring it back a little bit. Chicago, we're talking about Kanye West. You just mentioned the comment that you made on TMZ saying that slavery was a choice, and then
which wasn't the actual comment, but it was taken as that. So it doesn't matter. It's fine.
Okay.
I said 400 years. It sounds like a choice to me.
Gotcha.
To Kanye West. Not being a historian, like GLC is a historian, he'll break it down for you. I tell you, I gotta bring him up and he'll break down all this. To me, when I hear about anything of an entire group of powerful people being captive, held captive for 400 years, it sounds like a choice to the spirit of Kanye West, which I think is aligned with the spirit of Harriet Tubman, which I think, and let me finish, which I think is aligned with the spirit of Nat Turner, which in my non-historical opinion, I feel that these are examples from the past of people who felt similar to that, even if it was worded incorrectly in the white man's tongue. Maybe I could have danced, or maybe I could have spoken Swahili and spoken the actual language, because even the fact that we're having to have this conversation in English is a form of slavery, because it's not even our tongue. It's not even our language, bro. So that feeling, that emotion, that ramped up feeling, that medium connection with spirituality that we got to witness on TV, the fact that I could take that bullet and be like, oh, he's crazy. I'm going to just segue. I'm going to come back to slavery. I want to talk about the crazy thing for a second. Tom Cruise could hop out of a plane, onto a motorcycle, drive out of a window, do a flip onto a boat, right? And then go eat a back.
I don't know what he was getting at with that last thing about Tom Cruise, but I understand what he said. I probably should have did a little bit more due diligence in terms of, the actual verbatim quote that he actually said, because he said it feels like a choice to me, which is not slavery was a choice. That's two completely different things that are being said. So I'm gonna say that first of all. Second of all, I understand where he's coming from, and I hear him and I really do hear what he's saying. I just felt like somebody who was never a slave is really hard to really have that call. And I understand what he's saying about us having this conversation in English is a form of slavery, is a form of how we were stripped of what we were stripped of, and the oppression that we're going through now is still a form of slavery. And I get that mindset from where he's coming from. But in terms of, people who were quite literally property, if you're gonna get specific in that type of that type of talk, I feel like it's very, very inconsiderate and insensitive to say that, it's a choice. But even though he said it feels like a choice, so how you feel is how you feel. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with how somebody feels, because there were people, there were people that did get freed, but I feel like that would be the same thing as me saying, like, somebody in like 500 years from now saying, like, the 1% of people made over this much money, and everybody else was working class, and I say that feels like a choice to be an employee, because you have the information is there. You look for the information is there. All you have to do is find the information, do the work, be consistent, be patient. There's sensible steps that you can take to do certain things. And I say, well, to me it feels like being an employee was a choice. I feel like without being in those actual shoes, it's a little unfair to think that. You know what I mean? Now, if we talk about modern day, but because we all live in the modern day, even though our experiences are different, I do feel like, you can touch on that because you live in the modern day. None of us lived in the 1800s, you know what I mean, where people were actually property. But I do understand what he's saying. I do get what he's saying, for 400 years, all the way from back then all the way to now, you still a slave. There's, like, some people say being an employee is a slave, right? In a way, if you're an employee and you don't want to be an employee, you want to have assets, you want to build, you want to create generational wealth, that's a choice. Now, is it easy? You know what I mean? But I think in a way those are apples and oranges, but I just wanted to find a way to really apply that, just to make it easier for somebody else to understand, because those are two very different things. It just felt very, insensitive, but I do get where he's coming from, because you have Harriet Tubmans, you have Frederick Douglasses, you have all these people that did, or not all these people, but you have people that did gain their freedom. You know what I mean? So I do feel what he's saying. I do appreciate the comment in terms of removing the victim mentality, because there's a lot of victim mentality going on nowadays, and understandably so, because in a lot of ways you are a victim. You know what I mean? But you can choose to be a victim, or you can choose to be a victor. You know what I mean? If we're talking about being oppressed, and we're talking about how black people don't have the proper rights that they deserve and how they get mistreated, all of that's good information, so we know what's going on. But in terms of how we're going to use that information, are we going to use that information to allow ourselves to feel better about what's going on in our lives? How black people an average black household only makes $17,000 $17,000 a year, while the average white household in America makes $167,000 per year. Are we gonna use all this information to help propel us and to not be slaves no more? Or are we gonna use that information to allow ourselves to be okay with being slaves? You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people use that to help us cope with being slaves, when I don't really feel like that's the right way you should go about it. So I do appreciate the comment in that standpoint. You know what I mean? That, you know, let's kind of remove that victim mentality. You know what I mean? Because right now we're not in the 1800s, you know, but people still have that type of energy on them. You know what I mean? When you talk about, you know, what black people have gone through, when, you know, I've been in conversations where, you know, a group of my family will talk about all the things that happen to black people, and at the end of what we're talking about is never talks about, so what is necessary. I feel like it never talks about what's necessary. It's just an explanation for why you're in the circumstance that you in. You know, so that's how I feel about it. So, you know, let me know if you agree with me, or if you agree with I mean, I don't feel like me and Kanye are, you know, I just would have never said that. You know what I mean? But I do feel where he's coming from. Let me know what your thoughts are, how you feel about the situation. You got a quick one in today. So I'm gonna see y'all. You feel me? Peace.